Hello there. Welcome back if you hear from my first video, which was just posted last week. I very much appreciate you being back here. And if it's your first time being here, my name's Vanessa, and I talk about literature and art and everything that comes with it. But before I get into a huge rambling, I'm going to choose to contain my excitement, but still tell you how super grateful I am that I've reached 1,000 subscribers after posting my first video. That is so wild to me to think about, and I truly did not expect it to happen that quickly that it did. But it just makes me so happy to see that you enjoyed the first of, I truly intended to be many more videos to come. But anyways, books have a way of exposing us, don't they? We start reading them to maybe understand our world better, but somehow they end up showing us something about ourselves instead. When it comes to classic authors, I think this concept is even more prevalent, which is what we're going to talk about today, because the writers that we gravitate towards can say a lot about who we are even without us realizing it. Also, I leave this question that I hope you'll answer in the comments because it's something that I wonder about a lot. But do you think that we more or less choose our favorite authors, or do they choose us? Do we fall in love with certain authors' work, that we try to emulate them and mold ourselves into this living character that we think they would have loved if they were to come upon us? Or do our favorite authors choose us? I'll let you guys be the judge of this one. So let's start with Dostoyevsky, who I'd like to propose is the philosopher of the group. Also, as a preface, as I should have said this before, but I know that all these authors are so much more than the fun titles I'm going to give them, and all of them are such literary forces and an inspiration, and continue to be for so many of us. So while they can't truly be summed up in a single word, I hope that this could be just a fun little way to think about them, and maybe it makes you feel more personally connected to your favorite author more than you were before watching this video. But back to Dostoyevsky, the philosopher we'll call this group. You guys are the overthinkers, the ones who seek to understand the complexities of life and one's inner life more so. If you've read his works, you'll quickly realize how much his characters are written so realistically in such an unfiltered way, and you get to see the inner thoughts that run through the human mind in what feels like one of the most honest ways to put something on paper. I think some of his writing may seem jarringly extreme, but that's what I love about it personally, because the emotional side of his work is very much rooted in reality, and it mirrors that feeling of our own inner thoughts that we find ourselves having as we move through life, and how they can also contradict themselves from our actions, which I think makes his work very relatable and real. I recently finished White Nights, one of his earlier works, and it's interesting how much you can tell that the dreamy idealization of romance is so present in this one, as opposed to his later works. Like, imagine reading Crime and Punishment after this. It's a wild difference. And I think if you find yourself gravitating towards Dostoevsky, you're fascinated by these same contradictions of unfiltered romance and bitterness, or the contrast between chaos and order. And as someone as introspective as you are, I'd imagine you're also the type of person who doesn't care for small talk, but more about understanding what lies beneath the surface of the people that you encounter. And I find so much beauty in these types of people, as philosophical minds are at times the most empathetic. Next up, we have Sylvia Plath. If you fall into this category of readers, you may be the confessionalist of the group. It's likely that you may be a writer yourself as well, either through means of a diary or a blog, or I would see this group being those who enjoyed their creative writing classes throughout school. You're likely someone who values emotional honesty and vulnerability, and someone who is comfortable confronting those dark thoughts that linger in the back of your mind. And there's something so deeply compelling about Plath's willingness to focus on writing prose and poetry about her struggles more than anything else. And works like The Bell Jar and Ariel really go deep into this tunnel of anguish. But I don't think that this group of readers necessarily are plagued with the same tumultuous inner life, but rather I see you as someone that comes with an emotional honesty that allows you to seek authenticity and depth in your personal relationships. And in the main sense of the word, it's someone that leaves their emotions out into the open, even if it's done so quietly. Some of you may identify as an open book that doesn't shy away from talking about your own daily struggles, and there's some comfort in reading Plath's work just for that reason, because, like her, you might find it to be cathartic to face difficult emotions and trying to work through them no matter how vulnerable they make you feel. I very much respect this group. It can be hard to be emotionally available to those around us, and it's sometimes very draining, but your willingness to bare your soul is one of the things that makes you so authentic. Next up, we have Franz Kafka, the absurdist of the group. Also, this is not one of Kafka's books, but it's Kafka for Kids by Ro Rosen, based on the 2022 musical comedy that aims to make his work accessible for kids. Although, at the same time, this surrealist retelling is very much still complex and not entirely meant for children, which is the funny part about it. I still highly recommend it, though, if not for the book, but for the clips of it that you could find on YouTube. It's very comedic. But anyways, I think the best way to describe this group, the absurdists, is someone who revels in exploring the surrealism of everyday life that others might not choose to notice, or they choose to ignore. Sometimes sitting with these strange feelings, like the odd transformation story that is metamorphosis, can reveal some profound truths about life's mysteries. If you lean more towards Kafka's works, you might be a person that seeks to embrace all the uncertainty that comes with life, and as opposed to sitting in worry and anxiety of what the future may hold, as I find myself doing a lot of the time, you guys thrive in the unknown, because some things in life are just out of our control. There's so much depth in the meaning of his writings, and a lot of it captures ideas of existentialism and what it feels like to search for purpose in a world that feels like it doesn't care about you. I see this group as those who are very mentally strong and people that can overcome any situation, and through the lens of absurdity, the weight can almost rest off of your shoulders a bit more. Virginia Woolf. If you are more of an introverted person, someone that would describe yourself as attentive to the world around you, I would say that you would fall into this group of the observer. I can see you being a person that forms emotional bonds with places and trinkets and just other little moments that others might seem as small or insignificant, but to you they carry memories or moments with deep emotional connection, which is beautiful about you. And Virginia Woolf's writing has so much of this type of winding introspection on minute details, like the micro expressions of her characters and how she describes them so patiently. There's this type of feeling of trying to hold on to lines as she's telling the story a bit longer than it technically needs to be when it comes to something that she finds very beautiful. Almost like she can't help but pause her narration to make sure that we caught what shiny object she saw. But it's not done in a way that she's distracted, but more so in a way that it's higher level, that she knows how to lend appreciation to the little details in life that we take for granted. And I think you are the type of person who's very similar in that way, especially through her novel, The Lighthouse. She focuses so heavily on the interpersonal relationships and everyday lives of this family and their 8 children as they vacation in their summer home. It's so much about everything and nothing at the same time, like Seinfeld, but the 1890s, which can possibly be the best descriptor I've made this far, or at least the most comically inaccurate. But for some reason, my brain just made that connection. Next up is Albert Camus. The Unbothered is perhaps the best way to describe this group of readers. You guys are quite outwardly stoic, aren't you? But of course, hopefully not to the extreme that his character's indifference falls into. If you enjoy his works, you're perhaps the type of person that remains calm during life's absurdities. And even with chaotic moments, you're able to stay unrattled. It's a kind of serene acceptance of life that you might find yourself having, where you find comfort in the idea that maybe there's meaninglessness in everything. And it's within this randomness that you thrive and you're able to pull yourself out of the caring of at least the everyday minute problems that those around you seem to worry and complain about. Because life will keep throwing you curveballs, but if you're unbothered, you've found how to approach it with ease. I also think this group is very good at being able to enjoy the moment. When you're not constantly worried about something in the back of your head, you can allow yourself to be fully present in the now without getting dragged down into the peering gaze of existentialism. I also posted a video last week about Camus, and I got more into The Stranger, which is a short read, but a very impactful one. So if you want to learn a little bit more about this book in specific, go take a look. Now let's talk about Jane Austen. Let's call this group the Romantics. I can't think of a better word that sums it up better. You believe in love to the core of it, but also you have a strong head on your shoulders, and you understand the importance of holding up standards for yourself before you fall for someone. I think fans of Jane Austen are very thoughtful people that know not to rush into things, but instead they enjoy the feeling of the chase or being chased, especially when it comes to romantic relationships. You may find it really easy to romanticize your own daily life, finding meaning in the everyday and attaching passion into everything that you do. For this group, it's more just as much about the journey as it is about the destination. If you haven't read it, I think her novel Persuasion encapsulates all these feelings so well. It's essentially a story of a rekindling of a lost connection, and it has all these themes of longing, patience, and romance, all wrapped up in a great ending. To all of you who find yourself relating to this group the most, I hope you have soon found, or have already found, your own Mr. Darcy. This next author is Oscar Wilde, and what I'm calling fans of him as the charmer, because of course he is. I think you are all effortlessly magnetic, as he is too. And just like Wilde, it's this ability to have very quick and witty remarks that makes you memorable. It's almost like you're not just any other person in the crowd. And even without trying to, you radiate something that makes you stand out. I think his characters like Dorian Gray or Lord Goring in The Ideal Husband really highlight this fact. And it's just the casual air of intrigue that he's able to capture that I think makes it easy to fall in love with his writing style. I also think you might be someone that has an appreciation for the finer things in life, whether that's in a physical sense of the way that you dress and where you live, or it's in the media that you consume and people that you choose to surround yourself with. You're here for a good time, essentially, the best time that you could possibly make of it. And in doing so, it becomes more natural over time for you to slip into becoming this clear conversationalist. I think Wilde's work is truly a masterclass in dialogue, and so I think you may also be someone that's most happy when you're in the middle of some intellectual banter with someone that you could just tell is just as excited to converse on the topics that you're discussing as you are. I have a feeling that when you speak, your words just hold this radiant charm that not anyone can just emulate. And I love that for you, and I hope to have conversations with you all. Next up is Osamu Dazai, the melancholic. I just finished No Longer Human a couple weeks ago, and it's the only one of his works that I've read so far from him. But I've since been going through a bit of a rabbit hole, learning more about his life and figuring out which one of his works I should read next. Most likely The Setting Sun, but if you have a suggestion for a lesser known work of his, please let me know. But anyways, I've come to the conclusion that this melancholic feeling is the best way to describe readers of Dazai, but it's in a positive lens though. It's one that allows you to see the beauty in moments of sadness. And even through times in life where we're bound to feeling alienated and in emotional distress, you kind of subsequently realize that there's something uniquely important about those moments, almost to the point of romanticizing them. I might be off base here, but it reminds me of those videos of people where they film themselves crying. Because even though they're going through something that's pretty rough, something in their brain still thinks, oh, I should look at myself with the camera lens and share it online. I don't know. Obviously, that's not the same as him, but for some reason it brought that to mind. But it still holds truth that a lot of his work is interlaced with this permeating sadness, and it stays with you long after you're putting the book down. If you gravitate towards his work, I find you to be someone of deep introspection. You might be someone that feels very unique, but also you're able to find calm within these moments. Existence might feel a bit bittersweet to you, I think. Last on our list is Edgar Allan Poe, The Enigma. It's crazy how I don't have any of his works in physical form, as it's definitely the writer that I've read the most from, especially in school. I feel like the curriculum when I was in high school was very obsessed with his work. But, anyways, I find readers of Edgar Allan Poe to be readers that love the mystery behind everything. It's like you can't help but be drawn to that unknown feeling. This is the type of person that probably is constantly looking for a deeper meaning in everything, even in things where there is nothing explicitly hidden beneath the surface. I bet you guys are comfortable in the dark. What weirdos you are. I could never. I'm very easily scared by close to everything, but it's exactly this comfort that you find in the shadowy parts of life that make you so unique. It's your ability to see depth and meaning where others might see nothing but trouble and fear. And I hope that maybe one day I could be a little bit more like you. So that wraps it up for today. I hope you find yourself more deeply attached to the classic authors that you find comfort in. And I'm curious to know if I've mentioned your favorite classic author and if I represented them to the exact way that you see them in your mind. And I'm also curious to know if anyone can guess who my favorite is of this list. I might make a part 2 of this video since there's many authors that I didn't mention that I have a lot to say about. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the comments and in my next video, I hope.